Good afternoon and salam Malaysia Madani. This is World Today. I'm Renata Paul. Let's begin our bulletin with a quick look at today's top stories. Senior Iranian officials highlighted Iran's willingness to reach a nuclear deal with the United States, even as Washington increases its military presence in the Middle East with advanced fighter jets. Iran's foreign minister said both sides have a historic opportunity for an agreement that meets their mutual concerns, adding that a deal is possible if diplomacy is prioritized. 4 years after Russia's full-scale invasion, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres called the war in Ukraine a stain on our collective conscience and urged an immediate ceasefire. Despite diplomatic efforts, the human toll remains catastrophic, with over 15,000 civilians killed and more than 41,000 injured since the invasion began. Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered tighter protection for Russia's energy and transport infrastructure after Ukrainian attacks that he said were backed by Western intelligence. On the 4th anniversary of the war, he warned that Russia's enemies would regret pushing Moscow too far. Australian Prime Minister was evacuated from his residence in Canberra following a security threat and returned a few hours later after nothing suspicious was found. Police said they had responded to an alleged security incident without giving more details on the nature of the incident. Thousands of Serbian farmers blocked main roads to demand better subsidies and protection from cheap imports as rising costs and low prices hurt rural incomes. They want higher and more reliable subsidies, temporary limits or tariffs on some imports like foreign milk and pork, and faster payments under the system. A landslide in southeastern Brazil killed 30 people and left 39 missing, while firefighters have rescued more than 200. Rescue teams and sniffer dogs continue searching the debris as Brazil faces heavy rains during its summer rainy season. India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau began collecting evidence from the crash site of an air ambulance in Jharkhand that killed all 7 people on board. The Beechcraft C-90 plane, operated by Redbird Airways, took off from Ranchi but lost communication and radar contact after requesting a course change due to bad weather. Thai authorities said more than 70 tigers died at a sanctuary in northern Chiang Mai due to canine distemper and bacterial infections. Lab tests confirmed no bird flu in the tigers or the chicken cages used for feeding. And the deaths of 72 tigers are among the largest in a short time. Atletico Madrid striker Alexander Sørloth scored a hat-trick as they beat Club Brugge 4-1 to reach the Champions League last 16 with a 7-4 aggregate win. Johnny Cardoso scored Atletico's other goal, while Joel Ordóñez scored for Brugge in the 36th minute. And that was today's top news in a quick snapshot. Up next, the complete World Today Bulletin. Stay tuned.
Padamkan komputer untuk lebih penjimatan.
Thanks for staying with us. More stories ahead. Senior Iranian officials stress Iran's willingness to reach a nuclear deal with the United States, while Washington continues to escalate its military posture in the Middle East, deploying advanced fighter jets. Iran's Foreign Minister Saeed Abbas Araghchi said Iran is determined to reach a fair and equitable deal with the United States as soon as possible. In his remarks posted on X, Arokshi said the two sides have a historic opportunity to strike an unprecedented agreement that addresses mutual concerns and achieves common interests, adding that a deal is within reach if diplomacy is prioritized. His comments came ahead of a third round of indirect nuclear negotiations between Tehran and Washington scheduled for Thursday in Geneva. Two rounds of indirect talks were held earlier this month, centered on Iran's nuclear program and the possible lifting of the U.S. sanctions. Also on Tuesday, Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister for Political Affairs said Iran is ready to do whatever necessary to reach a nuclear agreement with the United States. 4 years after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said the war there remained, quote, as a stain on our collective conscience, and reiterated calls for an immediate ceasefire. Guterres' remarks were read on his behalf by the UN Under-Secretary-General for Peace Building, Rosemary DiCarlo, at a session of Security Council to mark the 4th anniversary of Russia's invasion. In the remarks, Guterres commended the efforts of the United States and others to end the war, but said concrete measures were needed to de-escalate and create space for diplomacy.
The human toll is catastrophic. Despite unprecedented diplomatic efforts, last year was the deadliest for Ukrainian civilians since 2022. More than 15,000 civilians have been killed in Ukraine since the start of the invasion, and more than 41,000 injured.
Guterres warned that the fighting posed direct risks to the safe and secure operation of Ukraine's nuclear sites. He urged UN member states to fully fund humanitarian assistance and said that any settlement to the war must uphold the sovereignty, independence and territorial integrity of Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered the Federal Security Service to step up protection of Russia's energy and transport infrastructure in response to Ukrainian attacks that he said were conducted with the help of Western intelligence. Putin, speaking on the 4th anniversary of the war, said Russia's enemies would regret it if they pushed Moscow too far.
В этом году количество преступлений террористической направленности увеличилось. И большая часть из них, как и все последние годы, безусловно, дело рук украинских спецслужб и их зарубежных кураторов. При этом значительно возросло количество атак на российские инфраструктурные объекты, социальные и административные учреждения, жилые здания с использованием ракетных вооружений и беспилотных аппаратов разного типа.
Ukraine has repeatedly attacked Russian oil depots, refineries and ports in the course of the war, and Moscow blames it for a series of assassinations of senior military figures. Putin said that Russian energy pipelines under the Black Sea could be targeted. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese was evacuated from his official residence in Canberra over a security incident. He was moved from the lodge and the police have been sent to his house. The federal police responded to the alleged security incident on Tuesday night. In a statement, it said they had responded to an alleged security incident around 6 p.m. A police spokesperson said a thorough search of a protection establishment was undertaken and nothing suspicious was located. He added there is no current threat to the community or public safety. The Prime Minister's office later said that they trust the police and thank them for their work. Now, the number of people in Somalia facing acute food insecurity is expected to nearly double from a year earlier as hunger levels rise due to a worsening drought, conflict and soaring food prices. The Integrated Food Security Phase Classification IPC initiative said that during the February to March 2026 dry season, a staggering 6.5 million people are projected to face high levels of acute food insecurity. Now, this is compared to 3.4 million during the first quarter of 2025. The situation is further compounded by reduced humanitarian assistance, with humanitarian food security assistance in January 2026 reaching only 17% of the 4.8 million people in need. Thousands of Serbian farmers blocked main roads across the country, demanding stronger subsidies and protection from cheap imports and rural income strain under rising input costs and weak commodity prices. Now, the protests started almost 2 weeks ago and have spread across the country, with most road blockades disrupting traffic along 42 main roads. Farmers' demand include higher and more predictable subsidies, temporary restrictions, or tariffs on some agricultural imports, including cheaper foreign milk and pork, and faster payment systems.
Situacija i energija u narodu ne opada, jer mi smo spremni da istrajemo i teramo do kraja. Sva ova obećanja od ovih izdajnika koji su na vlasti, od ministra poljoprivrede i svih ostalih, i ono sramno kad smo išli na razgovor, kolege iz udruženja i svi ovi koji su na blokadama, ono je sramota. On više nije ministar, naš ministar nije, i do njegove smene i odgovornosti mora doći.
Protests of farmers coincide with ongoing nationwide anti-government protests that started in 2024 when 16 people died in the collapse of a canopy at a train station. French President Emmanuel Macron accepted the resignation of the head of Paris' Louvre Museum, which has been grappling with the fallout from a high-profile jewel heist and rolling strikes. Lauren Decaux tendered her resignation, which Macron accepted, praising an act of responsibility at the time, but the world's largest museum needs calm and a strong new impetus to successfully carry out major projects involving security and modernization. Decaux has faced intense criticism since burglars made off in October, with jewels worth an estimated 102 million USD that are still missing, exposing glaring security gaps at the world's most visited museum. Strikes over pay and conditions since December have also led to regular closures and added to a list of woes that included 2 water leaks, as well as massive ticket fraud investigation. And still ahead, rescuers search for missing after deluge kills 30 in Brazil. Stay tuned. Thank you for staying with us. Firefighters recovered a body after a landslide in southeastern Brazil that killed 30 and left 39 missing. A river burst its banks and streets became raging currents of brown water in the state of Minas Gerais after the overnight downpour in a region that has seen record rain this month. State firefighters said more than 200 people have been rescued. Firefighters and sniffer dogs worked to find the 39 people still missing in the debris.
familiares que estavam dentro de casa, porque era um momento de chuva, era noite. Então a gente vem fazendo apanhado desse pessoal para prestar o melhor atendimento possível. Só que o volume de terra é muito grande, então a gente vem trabalhando de forma minuciosa para atender da melhor forma os familiares e as vítimas, porém é um trabalho demorado e minucioso.
Much of Brazil is in the peak of its summer rainy season from December to March, when intense downpours can trigger floods and mudslides. India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, AAIB, began collecting evidence from the crash site of the air ambulance that went down in the eastern state of Jharkhand on Monday, killing all 7 people on board. The Beechcraft C-90 plane operated by Redbird Airways took off on Monday from Ranchi before requesting for deviation due to weather and subsequently losing communication and radar contact.
किया है और ऐसा ये कल भी सेम एविडेंस वगैरह कलेक्ट करेंगे, उसके बाद इनका जो भी इन्वेस्टिगेशन होगा हमें जानकारी देंगे.
The aircraft was carrying 2 pilots, 2 medical professionals, a patient, and 2 of the patient's relatives. According to industry experts, most air crashes in India can take more than a year to fully investigate. Burnt vehicles, military patrols, and guarded infrastructure were visible across parts of Mexico's Jalisco state as authorities sought to restore order following a wave of cartel violence triggered by the killing of drug lord Nemesio Osiguera, known as El Mencho. Drone footage showed a charred passenger bus blocking a bridge while armored military vehicles secured the perimeter. Mexican soldiers patrolled nearby roads in convoys, some positioned behind mounted weapons, as security forces maintain a strong presence across the area. Security was also tightened at a local prison where police trucks guarded damaged entrance doors following the escape of inmates, reported after the outbreak of violence in the coastal resort city of Puerto Vallarta. Activity appeared to be gradually returning to normal.
Well, now it just seems like everything is getting back to normal from what we've experienced the last few days. They put us in shelter in place, and we saw what was going on, and we were watching on Facebook, but a lot of the things that they were showing were actually AI generated. There was vehicles burning, but I don't think it was any threat to any people here in Port Vallarta at all.
Authorities say the violence erupted after Osiguera died following a military operation in Jalisco, prompting cartel members to set up roadblocks and torch vehicles across several states. In a related matter, Singaporeans and Canadians in Western Mexico urged to stay vigilant amid security concerns. Singapore Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that Singapore citizens in Mexico should monitor local news, avoid travel to high-risk states, heed local authorities' advice, and avoid large crowds, protests, and demonstrations. Meanwhile, Canada urged its citizens in Western Mexico to remain indoors until their departure as flights gradually resume at Puerto Vallarta International Airport. Foreign Minister Anita Anand said the airport had reopened to domestic traffic and that most Canadian airlines were expected to resume flights later in the day. Canadian officials remain in close contact with airlines and Mexican authorities to ensure flights resume safely and that further updates would be provided. A fire at Cape Town International Airport on Tuesday halted international flights and prompted a precautionary evacuation of passengers and staff. The blaze broke out on the landslide of the airport and disrupted certain services, including parts of its IT network. Authorities said the fire was later contained, but the incident forced passengers and staff in affected areas to evacuate as a precaution. Airports Company South Africa, ACSA, said in a statement that the fire has been successfully extinguished and all passengers, staff and visitors are safe. As a precautionary measure, international departures have been temporarily suspended and incoming international flights are being diverted. International flights that have already landed are being processed. The airport authority also advised passengers travelling domestically to check directly with their airlines and the company's mobile app for the latest flight updates. Thai authorities said more than 70 tigers died at a sanctuary in northern Chiang Mai province due to canine distemper and bacterial infections, ruling out a possible bird flu outbreak. Authorities were responding to initial speculation that the tigers at the Tiger Kingdom sanctuary were fed with raw chicken.
สื่อมวลชนทุกท่านนะครับทางกระทรวงเกษตรและสหกรณ์โดยกรมปศุสัตว์เองนะครับก็มีผลตรวจจากแลบนะครับว่าไม่มีในส่วนของเชื้อไข้หวัดนกไม่ว่าจะเป็นในส่วนของเสือเองแล้วก็ในส่วนของโครงไก่
A total of 72 tigers died across 2 facilities of the sanctuary, 21 at the Mae Rim site and 51 at the Mae Teng sites. The Tiger Kingdom, a tourist attraction, holds over 200 tigers at their facility in Chiang Mai. The death of 72 tigers is thought to be one of the largest casualties in a short period of time. The facilities have been temporarily closed for 14 days to allow staff to disinfect the enclosures, while livestock department officials were sent in to closely monitor the tigers. And next in sport, Charlotte hat-trick sends Atletico Madrid into Champions League last 16. Stay tuned. Atletico Madrid striker Alexander Charlotte scored a hat-trick as the Spanish side saw off Belgium's club Brugge on Tuesday to win the second leg of their Champions League playoff 4-1 and advance to the last 16 with a 7-4 aggregate triumph. Johnny Cardoso scored the other goal for the home side while Joel Ordóñez netted for Brugge in the 36th minute. Diego Simeone's Atletico, who have never won the competition, took a few minutes to get going in the early exchanges as David Hansko blocked Hugo Vetleson's effort well as the visitors attempted to capitalize. Atletico opened the scoring after Brugge's Vetleson had 2 good chances blocked in the early stages as the Belgians came out with attacking intent and a high-pressing game despite being unfancied after a 3-all draw in the first leg last week. It was only the second Champions League hat-trick in Atletico's history after Mario Mandzukic against Olympiacos in November 2014. But Atletico's quality triumphs after a dominant second half, and they go into Friday's round of 16 draw to determine whether they play either Liverpool or Tottenham Hotspur. That wraps up World Today. Do join us on Malaysia Tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. Now, we leave you with visuals of US President Donald Trump arriving at the House chamber ahead of his State of the Union. Till then, I'm Brendan Lepal, Salam Malaysia Badani, and take care.